Hello everyone. We introduced a video this last weekend on peace, so it got me into the chapter 21 in the book of Luke. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes with you in the book of Luke. And if you have your Bibles, I'm in Luke chapter 21, and I'm at verse 2 through 4. And yesterday we talked about spending, being spent, and we talked about being sent. And so at the beginning of this chapter, this whole chapter is talking about the last days and being aware that you're not deceived and that there will be some tough times coming in this season. But it's interesting that in the first part of this chapter, it says there was a certain poor widow casting in thither 2 mites. And he said, Of a truth, I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast in more than they all. And you know the reason for that. For in verse 4, Jesus says, For all these have of their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God. But she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had. She cast in everything. She gave everything. And it just kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday, is in this hour, it's important. You were born for such a time as this. And just like this widow, we are called on in this hour to cast in all the living that we have. Revelations, I believe it's chapter 12, says, learning to love not our lives unto the death. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 15 says, I will gladly spend and be spent. I'm also reminded of the woman that broke the alabaster bottle on Jesus' feet. This ointment that was worth a year's wage. She broke it all on the feet of Jesus. You know, and I think of that song by Misty Edwards, I want to waste my life. You know, you're not wasting your life, but it's such a joy to give all that we have. And I'm praying for you, I'm praying for me, that in these days that God is awakening a Christian, a disciple, a Nazarite, that joyfully wants to give all they have. And, you hear these stories of Mr. Letourneau, who ended up tithing 90% of his living. I just think that is the Christian, that is the person that God is inspiring in this hour to give all we have. Jesus said, if you lose your life for my sake, you will gain your life. But if you keep your life, then you will lose it. If you lose your life for his sake, you're going to gain your life, and you're going to gain his life and the life to come. But if you seek to save your life, then you're going to lose it. And it's just really interesting that the next theme here in verse 8 of chapter 21, it says, Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many will come. It goes into the talking about being aware of deception. If you are giving all of your heart to Jesus and you are seeking and pursuing him and saying, I want to be like this widow who's casting all the living that she had. If we are actively doing this, it's going to protect us in these days from being deceived. Well, I want to talk some more about Luke chapter 21, but I'm going to stop right here and save it for our next section. Thanks for spending a little time with me. It is just so exciting now to be in the Word and to just meditate on His promises.